The match had reached a fever pitch, and once again, the tension escalated as LA Knight stood on the verge of a career-defining moment. He was inching closer and closer to claiming the biggest prize of his wrestling career, the World Heavyweight Championship. You could see it in his eyes, feel it in the air. LA Knight could taste it. He could almost feel the gold in his hands. It was within reach, and the energy in the arena pulsed with anticipation. But just when it looked like Knight might land his signature BFD maneuver and seal the deal, chaos struck. Seth Rollins, ever the cunning and unpredictable competitor, stumbled backward and crashed over the announcer's table, sending debris and equipment flying everywhere. The collision wasn't gentle. Rollins hit the floor hard, and so did part of the broadcast crew. The sheer impact of it disrupted everything around ringside, even jostling the commentators and knocking out all the monitors at the desk. The match had turned brutal. But in the midst of that wreckage, Rollins wasn't finished. Despite the pain and disorientation, he began pulling himself back to his feet, dragging his battered body from the ruins of the commentary area. LA Knight, sensing that his opponent was vulnerable, made the calculated decision to keep up the pressure. He didn't let up for a second. This wasn't the time for hesitation or mercy. He had the advantage and intended to push it until the very end. And so, Knight remained relentless, stalking Rollins, hammering him with strikes, and staying on the offensive like a predator closing in on wounded prey. In the middle of the chaos, there was a brief, strange exchange at the commentary table where someone joked about making a Jalen Brunson reference. It was the right city for the joke, but apparently not the right arena. The moment was an odd but fleeting attempt at levity in a match that had grown increasingly violent. Nobody had time to dwell on basketball jokes when carnage was unfolding inches away. Rollins, now on the defensive, was sent flying over the announce table once again, this time by a charging LA Knight who had no intention of giving his opponent a moment to breathe. And with every second that passed, Knight appeared to be inching closer to doing what few had ever done, defeating Seth Rollins cleanly and capturing the World Heavyweight title. The championship had long eluded Knight, but in this moment, in this arena, it seemed like the stars were aligning. But Seth Rollins, a seasoned champion with more than a decade of top-level experience, had tricks up his sleeve. In a split-second maneuver, while struggling to stand, Rollins seemed to go low, possibly hitting Knight below the belt. It wasn't clear from the angle if it was intentional or accidental, but it disrupted Knight's momentum just long enough for Rollins to capitalize. Seth immediately followed it up by violently driving LA Knight shoulder first into the unforgiving steel ring post. The sickening sound of flesh and bone colliding with metal echoed through the arena as Rollins seized the moment to mount his downed opponent. At ringside, Rollins climbed on top of Knight and began throwing wild, punishing punches. Blow after blow landed cleanly as Knight tried to shield himself, but the champion was in a frenzy. This wasn't just a title defense for Seth Rollins. This was a personal vendetta. This was about proving a point, not just to Knight, but to the entire WWE roster. Rollins wasn't merely fighting to retain his championship. He was fighting to assert absolute dominance. He wanted to remind everyone why he was at the top and why no one, no matter how popular or hungry, was going to knock him off his throne. Back at the announce desk, chaos still reigned. One of the commentators, likely Corey Graves, had just managed to free himself from the tangled wreckage around the table and confirmed he was back on commentary after being temporarily taken out by the earlier crash. But while the crew struggled to regain control and restore the broadcast, Rollins was laser-focused on inflicting maximum punishment. He rolled back into the ring just long enough to break the referee's count, a clear signal that this fight wasn't ending in a count-out. Rollins didn't want an easy win. He wanted to dismantle LA Knight. He wanted to break him, humiliate him, and make an example out of him in front of the world. This match had gone far beyond competition. It had become deeply personal. Earlier in the night, Rollins was meant to celebrate his World Heavyweight title reign, a night that was supposed to be about triumph, legacy, and pride. But LA Knight had interrupted that moment. He crashed the party, brought the fight to Rollins, and threatened to turn his celebration into a nightmare. And now, Seth was going to make him pay for it. Every punch, Every kick, every collision with steel was part of a message Rollins was sending, not just to Knight, but to anyone else who thought about stepping into his path. "You want to hurt me?" Rollins shouted in the midst of the beatdown, his voice raw with rage. "You want to hurt your man? I'll hurt you so bad you'll never walk again." The line was chilling, but it told the story perfectly. Rollins was out for blood, not just a win. And in his eyes, Knight had disrespected him in the worst way possible. It all stemmed from comments LA Knight had made earlier that week at Saturday night's main event. He'd vowed to injure Rollins, to take him out of action, and put an end to his reign. But he didn't get the chance that night, and so Knight came to Raw planning to finish what he started. The only problem? Rollins wasn't going down without a war. And then, just when it looked like Rollins was about to go to the darkest place yet, just when he began exposing the concrete floor at ringside, clearly preparing to deliver a devastating stomp to Knight's skull onto the cold, hard ground, a shocking moment turned everything upside down. Out of nowhere, from the sea of fans, a figure leapt the barricade and stormed into the chaos. It was CM Punk. Punk didn't come down the ramp. He didn't walk through the curtain like a normal superstar. He came through the crowd, the same way he did during some of his most iconic moments. The crowd erupted. Punk's sudden appearance had disrupted everything. Just as Rollins had Knight positioned for a potentially career-ending stomp onto concrete, Punk made his move. He attacked Rollins from behind, cutting him off mid-move and preventing what could have been a catastrophic injury. CM Punk wasn't even scheduled to be part of the segment. His arrival was unscripted, unannounced, and completely explosive. And it couldn't have come at a more crucial moment. Punk's interference sent the crowd into a frenzy as thousands of fans screamed and chanted his name. He wasn't just there for a cameo, he had come to make a statement of his own. There was history between him and Rollins, history that had never truly been settled. Now, Punk was picking his moment. Rollins didn't even see him coming. One minute, he was about to end LA Knight's hopes for good. The next minute, he was being blindsided by one of the most polarizing figures in professional wrestling. The referee had lost control. Security was nowhere in sight. The ring area became an all-out war zone. Punk's fists flew like daggers, and Rollins could barely defend himself. LA Knight rolled to the side, gasping for breath, trying to recover from the near-death experience Rollins had just planned for him. But what was CM Punk doing here? Was he coming to Knight's defense? Or did he have his own score?